A lonely painter stays in a haunted cabin for inspiration, only to find herself entangled with a lustful ghost. As the spirit grows dangerously obsessive, she unwillingly falls to his twisted plan. In the 1970s, 3 fugitives celebrate their successful heist at a secluded cabin. With the stolen money scattered on the table, the bandit couple, Holly and Kit, bask in their triumph, while the former's best friend, Dusty, awkwardly asks how they'll divide it. To thank him for aiding their escape, Kit offers him a choice between 2 vehicles, leading him to pick the Cadillac. While this frustrates his girlfriend, he contests that her pal earned it. He then excuses himself to check on the cars and shares a kiss with Holly, only to be interrupted by her jealous best friend. Outside, while working on the vehicle, a sudden gunshot rings out, startling him. His face hardens with worry and anger as he rushes back inside, shouting his lover's name in panic. When he finds Holly lying on the ground, he realizes that Dusty has taken her life and is overcome with rage. Without thinking, he lunges toward the man, only to be shot in the head. Kit's blood splatters onto a mysterious object, instantly trapping his soul within it, as his body lies with eyes wide open, frozen in a lifeless stare. Years later, 2 women arrive at the cabin and inspect the area. Sophia, a talent manager, bickers with Brynn, a famous painter, to change her art style and focus on more profitable work. As they explore the place, they're unaware that Kit is watching them, and that flashes of past events surface whenever they go near a particular spot. Finally, alone in the cabin and still struggling to find inspiration, Brynn opens a bottle of wine and puts on some music, hoping it will help unlock her creativity. She then sets up 3 canvases on the floor and paints for several hours. Once exhausted, she lies down and falls asleep instantly, too tired to bother washing the paint off her skin. In her deep slumber, she dreams of Liam, the model she's meant to paint, appearing as if they're on a dinner date. His intense gaze never leaves her as she smiles seductively. With desire evident in his eyes, he walks towards her. In a swift motion, the handsome man pulls her closer, eventually losing themselves in the heat of the moment. Meanwhile, her phone unlocks itself and starts recording her as she moves in her sleep, appearing as though she's in the midst of an intimate encounter. She wakes up lying on her canvas, startled by the vivid dream she just had. While still in a daze, she quickly takes a photo of her paintings and sends it to her manager when a sudden knock interrupts her. Officer Hawkins stands at the door, asking about the missing condemned sign outside the cabin. Brynn denies knowing anything, but he insists that the building is unsafe and orders her to leave. When she refuses, the sheriff attempts to pull her out, but a sudden flash of memory causes him to flinch, surprising them both. Realizing he can't force her out, he asks her to step outside, which she does reluctantly. As he starts lecturing her about morals and laws, Liam arrives and interrupts, asking if everything is okay. While he's leaving, he notices a handprint on her arm, sparking his suspicion about the ghost's reemergence. Inside the cabin, Kit watches Brynn clean up the mess from her paintings and talks with the model as he removes his clothes. With the man nearly unraveled in front of her, she struggles to focus on her painting as fragments of her steamy dream flash in her mind. She eventually asks Liam to put his clothes back on, frustrating him as he had traveled a long way for the painting session. The artist sighs in frustration and repeatedly apologizes to him, saying he'll still get his payment. After a while, the man teases her and asks her to have a drink with him instead. They start talking, and as their conversation deepens, they share some secrets. Brynn confesses to a sensual dream she had about him, where he kept telling her to bring him back to life. Smirking mischievously, Liam takes her dream as an invitation to make love and leans in to kiss her. She initially reciprocates his advances, but eventually pulls away to refuse him. When the model persists, she pushes him away and fails as he easily overpowers her. Suddenly, Kit's voice echoes from an old wooden radio, commanding him to stop. However, he ignores it and continues to force himself on the woman. This enrages the ghost, who yanks his feet and slams his head repeatedly with a paint can. He threatens Liam with an axe, but Brynn begs him not to hurt the man, so he stops midair and orders her to get him out. The woman then drags the model out to his car and urges him to leave. Later, she finds a mysterious recording of herself on her phone when she gets an unexpected call from Sophia about the show she secured for her. Still shaken from the events, she ignores the news and blurts out that the cabin is alive. The artist then asks for an extension to finish her painting, which angers her manager, reminding her they're on the brink of bankruptcy and she's done lending her money. Sophia then tells Brynn to pull herself together and that she'll drop by with the contract before hanging up. Frustrated, the painter calls a psychic about the ghost, hoping she can deal with him. Meanwhile, Hawkins is at the cabin of his friend, Padre. He accuses the operator of renting out the condemned property, though he denies it, prompting the officer to hang up. As he watches Brynn through his binoculars, his pal insists that he should leave. This frustrates the sheriff, who provokes the man by reminding him he's on probation. Offended, Padre dismisses the conversation, claiming it was just an accident, and decides to leave his side. That night, Clairvoyante arrives at the cabin, grumbling about the long drive. She spots Brynn asleep in her car, so she knocks on the window to wake her up and introduces herself. Relieved, the artist begs the psychic to get rid of the spirit. While she agrees to do so, she insists that Brynn also come with her into the house. Inside the cabin, Claire begins asking where she encountered the ghost. She says that she never saw him, but that she witnessed objects moving and felt his presence the other night. The psychic notices that Brynn refers to the entity as a him and asks how she knows it's a male. With hesitation, the woman admits that they had a rather intimate experience together. Claire is amused by her confession and teases her for more details. As her client grabs wine they can drink together, she uses the chance to steal her wallet. When Brynn returns, she explains that the ghost may be protecting her. The psychic dismisses her theory and posits that someone might be disturbing his grave. She adds that lost souls can't exist without a body, leaving the painter to pause and reflect. As Claire reaches for the glass of wine, Kit suddenly stops her hand, gripping it tightly and causing her to scream in pain. The radio echoes again, but this time he accuses her of theft and begins to torment her, trapping her in the room. The ghost reveals himself to her while Brynn pleads for him to stop. After a tense moment, the door finally opens, allowing the women to hurriedly exit the cabin. Outside, they meet the officer and report that the building is alive when a wallet suddenly falls out from under Claire's jacket. Brynn picks it up and realizes why the spirit targeted the psychic. The thief tries to explain, but the artist is too distracted to bother, so she decides not to press charges. At that moment, Hawkins finally tells her the truth and takes her to his home. He brings out a picture of Holly and shows it to her, saying she was his fiancée and that her life was taken in the same cabin where Brynn is staying some 40 years ago. He explains that an Indian man named Kit had forcibly taken the woman to the reservation, where he nearly lost his life trying to save her. Curious, Brynn asks for a picture of the mysterious man and presses for more details, but the sheriff quickly changes the subject. Instead, he tells her that the perpetrator has disappeared, implying he's still alive somewhere. The artist, sensing a strange connection between the ghost and the Indian man, confidently announces that he never really left the cabin because a spirit can't exist without a body. Officer Hawkins dismisses it, refusing to accept that Kit might still be lingering. He encourages Brynn to abandon the place, though she refuses, convinced that something is still inside. Back in the cabin, she acknowledges the lost soul, thanking him for protecting her. However, she also asks that he leave her alone so she can focus on her work. As she prepares for bed, she feels his presence in between her thighs and quickly tells him to stop. Kit ceases for a moment, but then she calls him back and surrenders to an intimate encounter with the ghost. Later that night, Brynn asks for his name, so he reveals it on the canvas. Almost on cue, a sudden knock at the door startles her. She opens it to find her slightly tipsy manager holding a bottle of wine. Curious, Brynn questions why she's dropping so late, but Sophia just shrugs it off and begins admiring the new paintings instead. Eventually, the woman confesses that her girlfriend cheated on her, leading to their devastating breakup. As they sit on the floor talking, the manager notices a subtle glow about her friend. She puts the pieces together and guesses that she must have slept with someone, making her laugh. Sophia eventually falls asleep on the artist's chest, only to be jolted awake moments later. She looks around, seemingly confused and amazed, as she examines her own hands and starts speaking in the third person. Bewildered, Brynn stares at her friend and figures out that Kit is inside her body, so she demands he leave her alone. However, she decides to confront him about the story that the officer told her earlier, accusing him of taking Holly's life. The ghost snaps when he hears this and realizes that the sheriff is Dusty and that he's been alive this whole time. He then corrects the woman, explaining it was Hawkins who ended both his and his girlfriend's lives and not the other way around. It doesn't take long before Kit realizes he can be with her by inhabiting a corpse. The thought horrifies Brynn, but he argues there's no need to take a life, only someone who's already dying. Before he can convince her further, Sophia's soul resists the possession and forces his spirit out of her body. Brynn is relieved that her manager is back to her senses and gently tucks her to sleep. Meanwhile, Officer Hawkins bribes Padre to eliminate the ghost in exchange for clearing his probation. The man reluctantly agrees, despite having little to no experience with exorcisms. Back at the cabin, Brynn, unsure about who to believe, decides to investigate on her own. At the same time, the sheriff and his friend quietly sneak in through the back door. As they prepare for the ritual, Hawkins overhears Brynn talking to herself about Kit and Holly. This confirms his earlier suspicion that the former's ghost is in their midst. The artist tries to focus on uncovering the truth but is interrupted by an unexpected knock at the door. She answers to find Liam standing there, offering an insincere apology. It soon becomes clear he's only there for his phone and wallet, so she tells him she doesn't have them. When she turns around, she's stunned to see his belongings on the chair even though they weren't there before. Despite the confusion, she hands them over to get him to leave. But as she moves to shut the door, the model forces his way inside and demands her to apologize for what happened. As the exorcism begins in the background, Kit grabs a wine bottle and smashes it on Liam's head. The spirit attempts to strike again, but as Padre sprinkles holy water, he starts to weaken. Fearing that Liam might actually be harmed in the process, Brynn pushes him out of the cabin while the exorcist proceeds with his ritual. Meanwhile, the model regains his strength and corners Brynn, forcing her to smack him hard. This enrages him, so he knocks her down and takes advantage of her unconscious body. The sheriff uses this opportunity to recover Holly and Kit's remains in the fireplace where he hid them years ago. Just then, Padre senses something is off and resumes his exorcism. His instincts are proven correct when Kit manifests in front of him and possesses his body to reveal the truth. Hawkins was responsible for the bandit couple's tragic fate because he was jealous and wanted Holly for himself. Meanwhile, the artist regains consciousness and, realizing she was violated, grabs the oven and swings it at Liam's head, knocking him out and causing a fatal electric shock. To her surprise, the ghost immediately takes possession of the model's lifeless body. When the officer hears Brynn call the man by Kit's name, he panics and immediately shoots Liam. Before the woman can react, Padre silences her and drags her away in an attempt to save her. He warns her that Hawkins is a threat, having already taken the couple's lives. Just as they near the exit, the officer catches them. Feeling betrayed by his friend, he pulls the trigger and shoots him point blank, making Brynn scream as the man collapses in front of her. Hawkins then turns to blame her for everything, insisting none of this would have happened if she had just abandoned the cabin. However, she tells him that Kit's ghost will never rest until his body is found. The sheriff scoffs, saying that even if his remains were discovered, no one would care anymore. As their argument intensifies, Hawkins raises his gun to fire at her, but Kit swiftly drives a blade into his back, saving her life. Echoing their past, when Dusty made him choose from two cars, he mocks Hawkins and lets him decide between the blade and a gun. In the end, the ghost drives the dagger deep into the man who took his life and finally gets the justice he's always wanted. Shortly after, he approaches the fireplace, his gaze fixed on his own remains, as flashes of memory reveal how he and Holly were disposed of. He lingers for a moment, then turns to Brynn, who watches him anxiously. He reaches out to her softly, asking if she's ready to escape with him to chase the happy ending he's always dreamed of. After a moment of hesitation, she agrees to run away with him. The next morning, Sophia wakes up to a horrifying sight of bodies scattered around her. Meanwhile, Kit and Brynn, now fugitives making headlines, embrace their freedom, only to discover that Liam's body is decaying after succumbing to his fatal wounds. When a man tries to hijack their car one morning and shoots him in the head, Brynn is shocked that it has no effect on him. Realizing that her undead boyfriend is immortal, she hastily leaves. However, she freezes in frustration when he calls out to her by the name of Holly. Heartbroken, the artist accuses him of never truly letting go of his former lover. But Kit insists it's Brynn he loves, pleading for her to stay and promising to possess the body of someone she loves. Overwhelmed and torn, she tells him to go, but the police suddenly arrive to arrest her. Sometime later, after being released from jail, Brynn decides to catch up with her manager. Everything feels almost back to normal until she recalls Kit's promise and realizes that Sophia might be in danger since she's alone on a vacation. After calling and getting no answer from her friend, the artist rushes to her location. Just in time, she finds the ghost attempting to drown Sophia in the jacuzzi. Brynn shoots at him, and while he briefly escapes, she eventually catches up to his severely decayed body. Realizing that things have gone too far, she insists that nothing will happen between them, and that he needs to find peace. However, Kit reveals that a mysterious object is keeping him from truly dying. He tries to approach her and convinces her to be together, but she refuses and shoots him again. When Brynn notices that the gunshots have no effect on him, she instructs her manager to grab the artifact and throw it into the fire to end everything once and for all. As the latter hurls it into the flames, the two get into a struggle and accidentally crash onto the rocks below. Days later, Sophia visits the artist while she's recovering at her home. To her surprise, the police officer drops by and leaves her an envelope containing the haunted object, adding that they have no use for the evidence now that the case is closed. While she stares at it, dumbfounded that it survived the flames, Brynn comes out of the bath and casually dries her hair. Sophia immediately notices her strange demeanor and comes to a horrifying conclusion. Holly's spirit has taken over her friend.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.